I know your team here, and I know that you actually turn away patients when you think that they're not, ready for a hair transplant, that their expectations are just not realistic, and they're not going to be met by anyone. For many different kinds of reasons, you'll send them just somewhere. You'll send someone, a patient, to somewhere else if you think that they can get the procedure done better somewhere else. And I think that that's awesome. And that's the kind of honesty and integrity that I think should be, ubiquitous within the hair transplantation industry. So can you explain why in certain cases you actually would turn away a patient?
Sure. I think it's very, very important when you're doing this type of work. Since I began in the very beginning, I've really tried to function by a very simple motto in my practice. And I think it's important to understand that this is my surgical practice. This isn't a business. Of course, there's business components to the practice that have to be dealt with, but first and foremost, this is my surgical practice. What I do here is reflected out in the community. It's reflected online. It's reflected, across the board. So I've tried to maintain an ideology of do good work, treat people fair, and the money will come. And I've tried to stick to that. And why would somebody not be a good candidate? Well, I think you try to manage expectations. But most importantly, if a patient comes in and they just flat out don't have good enough donor hair, their donor is weak or the donor is fine and thin, but these are highly motivated patients, and there's people out there, I'll call it what it is, there's people out there that'll see that and see dollar signs, and they'll tell the patient anything they want to hear. I just can't do that. That's going to lead to an unhappy patient. It's going to lead to problems for me, but more importantly, it's not the right thing to do. It's not the right thing surgically to do. You really are here to try to give patients results that they can be proud of and that you can be proud of. So there's plenty of business for everybody. If there are patients that come in that just I don't think have the greatest expectations, or maybe there's patients that come in that have great expectations, but maybe they just can't manage where I am with my fees or my cost, and occasionally that'll happen, and I'll try my best to recommend to them somebody who I think at least, if it is about a budgetary concern, we try to work with that. But many times I'll tell patients, listen, you're better off waiting until you have the money to do it right, because I don't want to send them to, and there's plenty of places where you can get a $2 graft. I just don't do that. I don't want to compromise my work. I don't want to compromise the quality of what we do. So it's a question we get asked all the time is, do you discount surgeries? I just don't. We don't feel the need to do that. I feel like our work speaks for itself, and I think if you start to discount your surgeries, it's starting to define you as a surgeon, and I just don't want to do that.